Chapter 81. Dwarf Kingdom or Lowly Kingdom. TL. Sungman. The corpse pope did not speak. The other monsters only expressed slight surprise. Not everyone dared to negotiate with the Bone King like the succubus did. The two of them were quite the pair. Yes, a pair. Even though the Bone King was a female undead, her bones were harder than any man's. She had deeply won the succubus's affection. I have my own decision on this matter, and he has the ability, said the Bone King helplessly but calmly. The succubus snorted, worried. If he controls all the monsters in the Great Tomb, isn't that sending those monsters to their deaths? Most of them will be preyed upon. What? Are you afraid of goblins? In the end, this sentence from the Bone King made the succubus shut up completely, not saying another word. Lin Tian couldn't believe it either. Did he really just get the control of all the monsters in the enchanted forest for free? Although he couldn't forcibly control the intelligent ones, he could still manipulate large numbers of the less intelligent ones. Crucially, he was also allowed to hunt and prey. Thinking carefully, Lin Tian realized. Everyone here was old and cunning, living for countless years. He was now the #1 wanted criminal by the Lionheart Empire and the Church. They must want him to confront them, while the Great Tomb reaped the benefits. Really damn cunning. Then, the Bone King issued the final order. From now on, you are the Southern Lord and Grand Lord. The tribe is permitted to hunt a large number of monsters, but you must take responsibility. Anyone who dares to invade the Great Tomb must be resisted with all your might. Thank you, Lord Demon. I will slay all enemies. Lin Tian said insincerely, his expression complex. After that, there was nothing more. The cannibal eagle quickly understood. Little Tian, let's go. After they left the Great Tomb, the creepy oppressive feeling finally disappeared. Little Tian, I didn't expect you to be so favored by the Demon Lord. From now on, you are the #1 in this forest, outside the Great Tomb. The cannibal eagle exclaimed, smiling broadly. Lin Tian smiled awkwardly, not at all. Let's go. There are still many things to handle in the tribe. After they parted ways, Lin Tian returned to tell everyone who had been eagerly awaiting the news. Gobu Yu was truly amazed. Boss, you're awesome. Such a strong figure treats you so well. I'm envious. Doesn't that mean we've become cannon fodder? If we don't develop, we can't fight the Empire and the Church. If we do, we'll be their priority targets, Goblin Slayer said heavily. Lin Tian also sighed. After plotting against others for so long, he now found himself in a predicament with no retreat. The Church, which had suppressed a powerful undead like the Bone King for decades, was no joke. There was no confidence in dealing with it now. Even with the sword Saintess, it wouldn't be possible. So the ultimate plan was to bide their time, strengthening quietly. I already have a plan. Don't worry, the ultimate winner can only be me, not any other side, Lin Tian reassured everyone. Boss, can you tell us more about that succubus? At this moment, Gobu Kwang grinned foolishly and scratched his head. Everyone gave this big guy a sidelong glance. They thought Lin Tian would scold him, but instead, he praised, you brat, you really inherited my genes. Your interests and focus are just like mine. Isn't it just a succubus? We'll catch some to use as breeding tools. Alright. Suddenly, those who had been holding back, like Gobu Tian and Gobu Shan, clapped and cheered. Alice, who had been sitting dazedly on the side, suddenly spoke, are you sure you can beat those demons from the Church? I only remember being easily defeated that day, and it wasn't even the Pope who acted. Thump. Lin Tian's brow furrowed. Even she was easily defeated. If it weren't for him, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Hatred and murderous intent flashed in Alice's eyes, referring to the cardinal. So, she had concluded that the Church members were all incarnations of demons. Lin Tian quickly comforted her, don't you believe in me? Have you forgotten my identity? Hearing this, Alice was stunned, her emotions gradually calming, and she nodded lightly. Everyone has just returned, rest for now. Freya, come over. Lin Tian then went to a cave. Inside, candles were lit, and Freya was carefully studying magic. Hearing his voice, she hurried over, kneeling beside Lin Tian. Master, you're back. Are you all right? How's the magic learning going? Are you confident you can master it? One reason for attacking Clinforth was to snatch some magic books for her. If she ended up brainwashed and understood nothing, it would all be for nothing. Freya's old magic book began flipping rapidly, high-tier magic healing rain. Droplets of cool green rain fell around. Touching them felt refreshing and soothing. Generally, high-tier healing magic could heal most common injuries, which was already impressive. Those cases where one had been stabbed dozens of times were another story. Although Lin Tian didn't know much about the process of learning magic, he was still amazed at her learning speed. Not bad. Keep studying, he said. To be on the safe side, he took away all the books on offensive magic. He only allowed her to study healing and defensive spells. Next, we just have to see when the Lionheart Empire and the Church will attack, Lin Tian mused. He knew nothing about the Empire's movements. But he could use the simulation ability of the system. All he had to do was think about hiding in the tribe and waiting for the plot to develop until the Empire and the Church attacked. System. Start life simulation. Life simulation system starting. Current plot. Become the Grand Lord. Your luck is great. By accident, you have become the Grand Lord of the entire enchanted forest, but you are a pawn and cannon fodder for others. Caught in a strategic trap, you are in a dilemma. Days go by as you hide in the tribe doing nothing. Although your prestige doesn't decrease, everyone urges you not to be so lazy and disheartened. You receive a declaration of war from the Empire. A month later, Alice and others feel the pressure from the Empire and the Church. They prepare for war. 3 months later, Gobu Tian reports that they have gathered 100,000 elite soldiers, and the Church has thousands. 6 months later, their army is fully prepared and begins a full-scale attack. Your tribe is like a pebble under a steamroller, easily crushed. Everything ends. Summary. Your laziness and disheartenment led to your demise. Despite great development potential early on, once you slack off, misfortune follows. Rating. 0/100. Reward. 0 life points. This life simulation is complete, with a time span of 6 months. 6 months. Lin Tian snapped back to reality. 6 months was neither too long nor too short, just enough. Lying beside the soft Alice, he began to think about his next plan. First, he decided to develop rapidly and breed a large number of low-level goblins. They would be used as cannon fodder. This would make the Bone King of the Great Tomb believe her plan was succeeding. Secretly, he would cultivate a powerful elite army to sweep the battlefield. There were enough resources, so there was no problem cultivating them. But later, he would have to face the monsters in the Great Tomb and those perverts in the Church. Even if he raised 3,000 leader variants or even overlord variants, it wouldn't matter. Their top combat power was overwhelming, capable of easily destroying thousands of soldiers. On his side, he was just a small soldier of the Great Tomb. The Empire could also be considered a pawn of the Church. When the pawns fought to the death, the generals would make their moves. The main point was symbolic. But there was no other way. Could an army fight against those generals? Goblins are still too weak, Lin Tian thought, frowning and sighing. Alice, resting, slowly opened her eyes and asked, "Messenger, what's wrong? Is there any way to drastically increase strength to an epic level?" Lin Tian asked helplessly. Thinking hard didn't yield a good solution. Alice pondered briefly. It's simple, you just need an item, like the ring on your hand. Lin Tian was taken aback and looked at the Fatu magic ring he had taken earlier but never used. Suddenly, everything became clear. His vision had been too narrow, focusing on crafting ironware, which was useful in the early stages. Later, human soldiers had full armor. Goblins, craftsmanship at best produced light armor. They couldn't create full or heavy armor. If they had heavy armor, no, even stronger magic equipment. With a large amount of magic equipment, their strength would increase to an epic level. Lin Tian quickly asked, "Alice, is there a way to get a large number of magic items? I want to build an army as a trump card." "No." Alice's quick and cold response almost made Lin Tian faint, bursting his bubble of fantasy. Then Alice coldly said, "Magic items are extremely rare for everyone. Since the dwarves disappeared, those who can craft magic items are even fewer. The Empire has only 2, and the Church is rumored to have 1 world-class item. Dwarves had the innate blessing of gods and could easily craft magic items. They lived by forging for generations and had excellent craftsmanship. 99% of the magic items on the continent were made by dwarves. And anything made by dwarves was of the highest quality." Lin Tian's expression was complicated. "Do you know where there are any dwarves?" "I don't know. They might be extinct or hiding where no one knows. They've been gone for decades," Alice said. Now, Lin Tian felt it was difficult. Without dwarves, he couldn't make magic items. He didn't even know the first step. Asking others would likely expose his purpose. Wait, there was still the purple gold dragon mother. How could he forget her? Ancient dragons had seen and known a lot. If even she didn't know, then no one would. The next day, after assigning Gobu and the others to breed new goblins crazily, he rode a dragon to Dragon Island. The journey was long. During breaks, he saw many young men heading towards the human capital with large bags. Lin Tian squinted his eyes, thinking, it seems the Lionheart Empire is really going all out, already starting to recruit soldiers. 6 months. The time was enough. Chapter 82. Going to the Ancient Dragon Clan for recognition. TL. Sungman. Crossing the sea, he finally saw the familiar yet somewhat strange Dragon Island. It was already overgrown with wild grass, and there were many wild animals he hadn't seen before. A few small turtles basking on the beach, upon seeing Lin Tian, were so frightened that they quickly hid in the sea. He ventured deep into Dragon Island but didn't see a single dragon. Lin Tian frowned slightly. Hiss, it seems the purple gold dragon mother mentioned something before. Was it at most a year or so? She had to return to the ancient dragon clan. She had said she actually ran away from the ancient dragon clan just for fun. In the dragon clan, her age was roughly equivalent to a 14 or 15-year-old human, and her size wasn't the largest. She probably went back home. After all, she did run away to play. Lin Tian felt a bit helpless. The purple gold dragon mother had mentioned before that the ancient dragon clan was at the base of the world tree. To find it, he just needed to fly towards the center of the continent. This approach was a bit time-consuming and risky. After hesitating for a moment, Lin Tian decided to give it a try. At least once he found it, there would be a much higher margin for error. If the purple gold dragon mother didn't know, perhaps the other ancient dragons would. Using the shadow of the sun, he precisely determined the directions. He then set off towards the central location. Due to the flying speed and endurance of a wyvern dragon being far inferior to Nidhogg, the little black dragon born from the purple gold dragon mother, it took him 5 whole days to reach the central area of the continent. No way, such a huge tree. When he saw the world tree, towering like a pillar, with its branches and leaves forming a green canopy supporting the sky, Lin Tian was dumbfounded. Such a visual impact was something his previous world could never provide. An entire skyline being a single massive tree, what a concept. The closer he got, the more he felt like he was being shrunk. Compared to this tree, he was less than an ant. Yet after circling around the tree for a long time, he didn't see any ancient dragons nearby. Roar. At this moment, Xiao Huan let out a low, fearful sound. Lin Tian noticed a chasm ahead. The bottom. Damn, I thought it was on the ground. Turns out it's underground. Is this really a dragon clan? Immediately, Xiao Huan overcame its fear of higher-ranked dragons and carried Lin Tian into the chasm. Passing through the dark fog, they finally reached the magma layer below. A scorching sea of lava lay before them, where a slight misstep would reduce one to ashes. Flying dragons were different from ancient giant dragons, they couldn't withstand the heat. After flying for a short while, they could barely endure it. They quickly found a small island in the magma to rest. Seeing Xiao Huan panting, parched and uncomfortable, Lin Tian could barely stand it anymore either. Even dragons couldn't handle it, he certainly couldn't. Damn, was I tricked? How can anything survive in this place? Lin Tian wiped the sweat off his forehead and looked around. Suddenly, in the distant magma, something seemed to be swimming rapidly towards them. Xiao Huan seemed to sense something beforehand and hid behind a rock, trembling. Lin Tian also cautiously drew his weapon, ready to strike at any moment. Roar. A ferocious, violent dragon roar echoed throughout the abyss. From the magma, a giant dragon the size of a mountain emerged. Covered in scars, it was none other than Scar. Its cold, penetrating eyes scrutinized Lin Tian, a goblin. And a low-tier flying dragon. This isn't a place you can come to. If you don't leave, face the consequences. Scar flapped its wings and flew out of the magma, golden, boiling lava dripping like raindrops. Lin Tian dodged quickly. If one of those droplets hit him, it would burn right through him. However, the 700-meter giant Scar left Lin Tian utterly shocked. This was a true ancient giant dragon. Compared to this, the purple gold dragon mother was just an underage kid. And Xiao Huan was even less significant. Scar stood on a small lava mountain, high and mighty, exuding an aura that made one retreat in fear. At this moment, several more dragons crawled out from the mist-covered rock walls, resembling lizards. Each one had a body several hundred meters long. Seeing the low-tier flying dragon and goblin, they all looked disdainful. In our ancient dragon clan territory, anything dares to come now. Eat them. Bah, I wouldn't want my mouth to stink. Just throw them into the magma. Scar, what are you waiting for? Aren't you the one the Dragon King sent to guard the entrance? Kill them already. The dragons urged one another, their eyes full of amusement and mockery towards the weak creatures. They didn't even regard them as living beings. Scar's expression turned grim, remaining silent. Seeing this, Lin Tian quickly explained, "Wait, we are friends of the Purple Gold Dragon Mother, and we mean no harm." Purple Gold Dragon Mother. Hearing these words, the group of dragons that had come to watch the commotion all showed a sudden shift in expression. Including Scar. Furbus, could it be that you are Despair's father? Scar's eyes were filled with astonishment and disbelief. For a moment, the dragons that had been clamoring earlier shrank back into the shadows in fear. Lin Tian couldn't help but feel curious. Despair. Furbus. Upon hearing this, Scar responded, Furbus is the name of the Purple Gold Dragon Mother, and Despair is the offspring of the Purple Gold Dragon Mother and a goblin, named Nidhogg. In the ancient dragon clan, only those with absolute power and status could have nicknames. Dragons like Scar, Sin, and Thunder Calamity had lived for several hundred years, were over 500 meters in size, and were immensely powerful. Scar was a dragon that had survived a severe assault led by the sword Saintess and her followers, which left it heavily injured. Even being attacked by the Church, the Empire, and the Dragon Slaying Guild combined did not kill it, making it quite a formidable existence. Sin, as his name suggested, had committed many heinous acts, including the destruction of entire cities. Thunder Calamity, being a descendant of thunder dragons, could unleash overwhelming lightning storms. Since you know her, can you take me to see her? Lin Tian breathed a sigh of relief and said. Because the dragon before him had a strength of over 6,000. There was no way he could fight it. But it seemed to be a reasonable dragon, not one to act rashly. Scar pondered for a moment and finally decided, follow me. Let that low-tier dragon wait outside, otherwise, it will die from the heat. Xiao Huan, you wait outside. I will come find you later. Lin Tian said, and then Scar allowed Lin Tian to ride on its back. It carried him deep into the dragon territory. Once they left, the dragons in the shadows dared to come out, their faces filled with fear. Oh my, that scared me. It turns out he's Despair's father. I'll never talk big again. If he complains to Despair about us, we're done for. We'll all die. Is it really this little goblin that fathered that terrifying dragon anomaly? Even the proud Scar let the goblin ride him. Despair. Oh Despair, what will you bring to the dragon clan? Ellipsis. On the other side, Lin Tian and his companions flew for a long time, passing through the sea of magma, and finally arrived at a dark rock wall. In the center of the rock wall, there was a visible black cave. Lin Tian was puzzled. On the way here, there had been dragons everywhere, but as they approached this black cave, not even a dragon scale was in sight. Could this guy have brought him here to deal with him? When they reached the outside of the black cave, Scar didn't dare to land but said, go down by yourself. Despair is inside. If you are indeed his father, I will come to pick you up later. Now I must inform the Dragon King. An inexplicable sense of unease surged in Lin Tian's heart. Swallowing hard, he said, all right, thanks, buddy. The moment he landed, the scorching black rock strangely had a chilling feeling, sending shivers down his spine. It was like the feeling a human gets when entering the territory of a ferocious beast. That was the scent of a predator. Lin Tian groped his way into the cave. As he approached, he realized the cave was vast, at least over 1,000 meters wide. Inside, it was full of skeletons. And it was clear that these were the skeletons of giant dragons. Some of the skulls were estimated to be those of 500-meter-long dragons. Does this guy eat his own kind? Lin Tian felt a bit terrified, but remembering what the dragon had said earlier, this should be the child of him and the purple gold dragon mother. No matter what, it wouldn't kill its own father, right? The environment was eerily terrifying. Lin Tian turned to leave, but his mind couldn't fully comprehend it. He examined the inside of the cave with a bewildered look. Suddenly, the ground seemed to become hotter and softer, and it even smelled bad. He turned his head. A massive tonsil came into view, followed by what seemed like a bottomless abyss. In front of him was a row of tonsils 10 times larger than Lin Tian. A huge black dragon, clad in black armor and with double horns, lay on the ground, its long tongue sticking out. Its dragon tail wagged like a dog's, looking very lively and excited. Lin Tian stood on its tongue. A few more steps, and he would be in its mouth. Seeing Lin Tian standing still, the black dragon decided to stop playing and snapped its jaws shut. The sound of teeth clashing was deafening. Lin Tian quickly backed away, finally getting a clear look at the dragon. It was enormous, almost as big as Scar. Its armor gleamed with a black light, and the green markings had turned into solid green crystals. Wait, I'm your father. Seeing that it was about to bite again, Lin Tian quickly raised his hand to stop it. Nidhogg paused, blinking in confusion, carefully examining Lin Tian's appearance. You're lying. My father is a goblin. What are you? You silly child, if I'm not a goblin, then what am I? A lingob. Lin Tian felt speechless. How could a goblin prove it was a goblin? Nidhogg looked skeptical. Then come with me to see my mother. Let's go. With that, it grabbed Lin Tian in its mouth. Turning, it dived into the sea of magma, swimming through it as if flying through the sky. They quickly swam downward. After an unknown amount of time, a giant cavern appeared ahead. As they entered, everything changed. There was no magma, only a network of tree roots extending endlessly. Compared to these roots, Nidhogg seemed insignificant. Chapter 83. Young Goblin does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. TL. Sungman. Lin Tian was tightly wrapped by the huge, soft tongue inside the dragon's mouth, unable to move. Crucially, it was like a piece of candy, being repeatedly licked and sucked by the tongue. His soul felt like it was about to be sucked away. How did this guy grow so fast, yet still act like a little kid? Stop playing around. I'm your father. Lin Tian cursed and grumbled, feeling like he had been thrown into a washing machine. Finally, Nidhogg opened its mouth. Mom, is this person really my father? Looking at the strange surroundings, Lin Tian felt this adventure was too fantastical. The area was filled with thick, dark tree roots, intricately intertwined, each one like a mountain blocking out the sky. Nidhogg looked like a small bug on the branches. No surprise, these were the roots of the world tree. Suddenly, a dragon's head emerged from the roots in front of him, looking very familiar. Purple Gold Dragon Mother, how did you end up inside the tree? Lin Tian said with an expression of disbelief. Seeing him, the Purple Gold Dragon Mother seemed both surprised and delighted. It's you, little guy. I didn't expect to see you again. Oh my, did that crazy woman not find you? Crazy woman. Lin Tian quickly understood. She did, but now she's a member of my tribe and is pregnant with my child. No way, are you serious? Alicenia, the sword Saintess. She joined the Goblin tribe and is pregnant with your child. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother was dumbfounded. She doubted her hearing, thinking it might be impaired due to relying on the world tree to live. Lin Tian patted his chest. Our relationship is real, would I lie to you? By the way, why are you staying inside the tree? Come out quickly. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother was excited. It's really satisfying to hear that. I'm actually dead, living only by relying on the world tree, because I was killed by that crazy woman. Little Black, this is your father. Don't underestimate him, he's really different from other goblins. Nidhogg's previous ferocity was gone, its big eyes now looking adorably innocent, appearing harmless and even cute. Full of disbelief, it extended its hot, red tongue and licked Lin Tian again. Fa, father. Then, the dragon's face turned slightly red. They call her Despair, but she's actually very shy and bashful. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother couldn't help but laugh. Maybe she was the only one who believed that. Shy and bashful, she almost ate him in one bite at the start. Every dragon avoided her. Her cave was full of dragon bones. Lin Tian felt awkward and symbolically sighed, then patted Little Black's scales. For a moment, Nidhogg shyly backed away, then flapped its immense wings, flying quickly among the tangled roots. It seemed very happy. By the way, isn't our child growing too abruptly? It's been less than a year, and she's already bigger than you. Lin Tian couldn't help but ask. He had heard that ancient dragons grew very slowly and needed to eat a lot every day. If they didn't eat enough, they almost wouldn't grow. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother pondered, maybe it's related to you. Goblins grow very quickly, don't they? At this, Lin Tian finally understood. Then, he asked about the main issue. By the way, do you know the whereabouts of the dwarves? I heard they've disappeared. I have some matters to attend to. Dwarves. I only heard rumors. Have Little Black take you to see the Dragon King, she must know. My body isn't fully formed yet, I need to rest. Thank you for avenging me, and someday, I must see what that crazy woman looks like now. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother returned to the tree after speaking. The anger in her heart had completely dissipated. At this moment, Lin Tian looked up and saw two adorable big eyes watching him from above. Father, are we leaving now? Nidhogg said softly, afraid her tone was too harsh. Lin Tian couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Yes, let's go see your Dragon King. However, the big tongue extended again right after. Lin Tian wanted to stop it, but outside was a sea of molten lava. Without it, he would be burned to death. Finally, he struggled his way to the outside of the cave. Only then did he realize that many dragons had gathered around the lava behind him. And there was one enormous dragon he had never seen before. Bigger than Little Black and the scarred one from before. It was the Flame Dragon Mother. Seeing Lin Tian, the Flame Dragon Mother had a complicated expression. Are you really Despair's father? You are indeed a goblin. The dragons behind her looked at Lin Tian and Little Black being close. They all showed expressions of disbelief. Oh my, is there actually a creature that can get so close to despair? Doesn't she eat everything? She even ambushed and ate several dragons. Incredible. The dragons behind them started discussing one after another. They were still surprised that Lin Tian had mated with the Flame Dragon Mother. Scar now believed it, saying, I didn't expect it. Phoebus actually mated with a different race. It's a pity that the pure bloodline of the Crystal Dragon is lost forever. Scar, do you really think it's a pity? At this moment, a red dragon with a broken horn, full of amusement in his eyes, asked. He was Sin. Those 2 horns were chopped off after he committed his sins. Hearing this, Scar was speechless. The other dragons sighed, thinking the pure bloodline of the Crystal Dragon couldn't compare to the current Nidhogg. In terms of growth speed, ferocity, and strength, Nidhogg was the first of its kind in the history of the ancient dragons. Finally, Lin Tian looked at the Flame Dragon Mother and answered, Dragon King, I have no malicious intent in coming here. I just want to inquire about the location of the Dwarf Kingdom. Dwarves. Upon hearing this, the dragons were slightly surprised. At this moment, a giant dragon with white scales, wings that resembled those of an angel, and surrounded by lightning, coldly said, the dwarves were exterminated by humans long ago. You won't find them anymore. Because dwarves also had another name, gnomes. They were categorized as monsters. Gnome was a large category that included goblins, dwarves, and gnomes. All dead. That can't be. Lin Tian felt disappointed, realizing his trip was in vain. However, the Flame Dragon Mother said, I know of a branch of dwarves that still exists, but you must agree to 2 conditions. Please speak. If I can help, I certainly will. Lin Tian's eyes lit up as he quickly responded. The dragons fell silent. They were all waiting for the Flame Dragon Mother to speak. After thinking for a long time, she said, First, you must make sure Despair no longer hunts her kin. But what if they bully her? Lin Tian hesitated, glancing at Despair, who was tilting her head with big, adorable eyes. After all, she was just a few months old. She didn't know the dangers of the world. If she was directly made to lose her fighting spirit, it would be bad if she encountered villains. Scar added, then only if they don't harm her first. No problem. Little Black, listen to your father. Good children do as they're told, understood? Nidhogg nodded vigorously. Lin Tian said, from now on, you are not allowed to harm these dragons unless they try to harm you. But, I often get very hungry. Nidhogg looked at the dragons with a greedy and reluctant gaze. It made them all shiver involuntarily. Although she only killed the dragons who mocked her for being a goblin descendant, it was still terrifying. Scar quickly said, in the future, if you need to eat, come to me, and I'll catch food for you. It's strange, we can go months without eating after a meal, but why are you hungry again in the afternoon after eating in the morning? Nidhogg bit her claw, looking very innocent. Alright, what's the second condition? Lin Tian then looked at the Flame Dragon Mother. The more he looked, the more he felt this dragon was captivating. Not only was she powerful, but her beautiful scales and lines were perfect. Like a sculpture, exuding a majestic aura that other dragons wouldn't dare to have. The Flame Dragon Mother hesitated, her proud and commanding gaze showing a hint of shyness. She glanced around at the other dragons. She seemed embarrassed to speak. You have to come with me personally to know this. After speaking, the Flame Dragon Mother opened her large mouth and wrapped Lin Tian in her soft tongue. Then she flew into the distant lava waterfall. There was a huge, high cave under the waterfall, surrounded by volcanic rock. The light from the magma illuminated the cave, making it look like an endless sunset. It was unexpectedly beautiful. Can you tell me now? After emerging from the dragon's mouth, Lin Tian asked directly. He came to inquire about the dwarves and didn't have much time to deal with other things. The faster, the better. Turning around, he found the Flame Dragon Mother had disappeared. Instead, a noble girl stood in front of him. Dressed in red, With black stockings, her enchanting eyes and those dragon horns gave an exciting feeling. Lin Tian instinctively took a half step back. Dragon King. What's this? I don't want to beat around the bush. The second condition is to bear a stronger dragon with you. As long as you agree, I'll tell you the coordinates of the dwarves. The flame dragon mother extended her leg from her red dress. Half black stockings, with a white thigh. It was mouthwatering. Lin Tian never expected to have such luck. It felt so unreal, like a dream. Who would willingly offer themselves? Seeing his lack of reaction, the flame dragon mother grew angry. Do you agree or not? Her beautiful face had a few fiery scales. Like the reverse scale of a dragon, untouchable. Lin Tian finally reacted and asked, Dragon King, are you serious? Me. He wasn't the kind to be driven by lust. He was professional unless he couldn't help it. Do you think the Dragon King would joke with you? Besides, if you refuse, you won't leave this lava cave. The flame dragon mother threatened. Lin Tian didn't say another word. He stepped forward and pinned her down, tearing at her clothes and stockings. The flame dragon mother felt both angry and ashamed. Given her status, she at least needed some mental preparation. This was too sudden. The key was, he seemed intent on ravaging her. How could she live if other dragons saw this? I can't help it anymore. I'll ask you anything later. You, be gentle, I'm the Dragon King. Don't hit me so hard. This feels like I'm a horse. I'm a noble dragon. I don't care if you're a dragon or a horse, aren't you all meant to be ridden? You. In her shame and anger, the flame dragon mother's eyes trembled, feeling tears about to fall. She covered her mouth, trying not to make a sound. It hurt. It hurt so much. She finally couldn't bear it and begged for mercy. Wait, I can't take it. I need to transform back. She immediately turned into a giant dragon. Unfortunately, this was no challenge for Lin Tian. Having devoured the abilities of the evil goblin, even a titaness thousands of meters tall could be subdued. Moments later, the flame dragon mother's massive lava body seemed to melt away. She lay on the ground, exhausted. Panting heavily, Lin Tian sighed, if I weren't in a hurry, how could I end the battle this fast? Dragon King, are you taking me as a god of fertility? Life was tough for him. Couldn't he have a grand romance? I demand the author change the title to, Young Goblin Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Lin Tian shouted in his heart. Even with a sword Saintess and a Dragon King, there was still no love. At best, Gobu counted a little. Chapter 84. Found it. Lolita Kingdom. TL. Sungman. Did you know that the existence of despair has rewritten the entire history of ancient dragons? Because of your goblin genes, her strength far exceeds imagination. If this continues, in a few more months, I will no longer be the Dragon King. It's taken us fire dragons thousands, tens of thousands of years to finally become Dragon King, and now you expect me to let the crystal dragons take it away so soon. As the flame dragon mother spoke, tears of unwillingness actually flowed from her eyes. Lin Tian finally understood. This guy was very competitive. But it made sense. Ever since the ancient dragons appeared in history, the position of Dragon King had mostly been occupied by crystal dragons, light and dark dragons, and elemental dragons. Elemental dragons were not like the flame dragon mother, who was solely of the fire element. They could use multiple elemental attacks. I see, then I will fulfill your request. Now, tell me the coordinates of the dwarves. Lin Tian didn't want to bother with these matters. As for what would happen next, it would certainly be beneficial to him. Both would be his children, and they might even help him rule the dragons. The flame dragon mother pondered for a moment before saying, over 100 years ago, I remember the dwarf kingdom was in the underground palace around the Rocky Mountains. They built a kingdom for their branch, very hidden. If there are any dwarves still alive, they must be there. The Rocky Mountains, huh? Lin Tian nodded slowly, then send me out. I don't have the strength now. How could a little goblin like you be so? The flame dragon mother blushed deeply. She hadn't expected to be bested by a goblin. After a long wait, she finally sent Lin Tian up. Little Black, take me out. I need to go. Nidhogg's eyes were full of sorrow and reluctance. Father, are you leaving? Can't you stay with me and Mom a bit longer? He had often been mocked as an orphan before. Now, he was very happy to have a father. But he hadn't expected to part so soon. I will come back to see you later, but I have some matters to attend to now. Lin Tian sighed, wanting to pat her head, but he realized he couldn't even reach her toenails. At this moment, Nidhogg lowered her head, indicating for Lin Tian to climb up. Good child, I'll take you out to play later. Lin Tian finally patted her head. He left the ancient dragons. Ellipsis. Riding on Huan, he began to head towards the Rocky Mountains to find the dwarves' underground palace. The Rocky Mountains were far away, and days quickly passed. When he saw the endless, lush green mountains, he felt his breathing become much more comfortable. The entire mountain range showed no signs of enchantment, which was very rare. It was said to be because of the protection of the ancient god Loki. Lin Tian was still cautious as he flew in the air. This place was no longer within the borders of the Lionheart Empire. He didn't know what country this was. But he knew that not all countries worshipped Jehovah like the Lionheart Empire. Jehovah was the one who managed the kingdom of angels. Other countries worship the 12 main gods of ancient Greece, the lineage of Zeus. Some worship the ancient Norse gods like Odin and Thor. This rocky mountain range was certainly in a country that worshipped the ancient Norse gods. I definitely won't find the dwarves' underground city. I'll have to see if any dwarves appear. Lin Tian found a mountain peak to rest on first. From a high vantage point, he slowly observed. Using his keen skills, he could see very far and clearly. As soon as he saw a dwarf, he could capture him and force him to reveal the location of the underground palace. As for searching the entire continent for decades and still not finding it, he didn't have that kind of confidence. Sure enough, after staking out various places for several days, he spotted a dwarf. No, this one looked almost human. Weren't dwarves supposed to be burly, with large hands and feet, wearing leather clothes, sporting big beards, and drunk all the time? But the one emerging from a rock crevice ahead looked just like a human child. Sneaking around, looking left and right, Lin Tian directly swooped down on his flying dragon, accurately capturing him. Help! Help! The dwarf screamed in fear, but it was useless. Lin Tian threw him onto a flat mountaintop and paralyzed him with an elemental hand crossbow. When the dwarf saw it was a goblin, his heart shattered. Why is there a goblin here? I'm going to die. Boo-hoo. He had originally wanted to find a flower for the dwarf girl he was pursuing. But he ended up like this. Don't shout. If you want to live, listen to me. Tell me, are you a dwarf? Lin Tian coldly questioned, holding a dagger to his neck. The cold touch was like the song of death, scaring him into confessing everything. I am. Lin Tian's eyes lit up, thinking to himself, perfect, and said, now tell me where the dwarf kingdom is. You have no chance to bargain or hesitate, understand? As he spoke, he applied pressure, the dagger's edge cutting into the dwarf's delicate neck skin. A drop of blood trickled down. The dwarf's psychological defenses crumbled completely before they could even form. He hurriedly said, go through the stone crevice. There's a password stone door. The password is 666. You need to input it to enter. I know what you want. I've told you everything. Please let me go. Boo-hoo. Little May, I don't want to die yet. I haven't even won you over. I'm still a virgin. The dwarf cried as he spoke. Lin Tian frowned slightly. Are you a simp? Is this little May worth it? He was about to die, yet he still thought about little May. Don't insult my little May. You ugly goblin. The dwarf was immediately enraged, his eyes filled with hatred. Lin Tian felt disgusted. I was wondering why the sky cleared up. Turns out you rendered me speechless. With that, he applied a bit of force. The dagger pierced directly into the dwarf's neck. Blood spurted out like a fountain. The dwarf convulsed on the ground for a few moments before losing all signs of life. Lin Tian used Fusion Devour to consume all his flesh. This allowed him to transform into the dwarf's appearance. Even Huan was bewildered, unable to recognize Lin Tian at all. Don't be surprised. This is the most powerful aspect of abnormal fusion. After merging, I can choose to retain my appearance or not. Lin Tian chuckled, soothingly. His eyes focused on the previous rock crevice. Huan, you stay here for now. I need to go to the dwarf kingdom. Wait for me to come back. Then, Lin Tian leapt down the mountain. He didn't know how long it would take. He needed to acquire a large number of magical tools or the dwarves, forging techniques to mass-produce magical tools himself. By then, he could build a trump card army. Arriving outside the rock crevice, he couldn't help but marvel at how hidden it was. It's just the right size for a dwarf to enter. If you're not careful, you wouldn't even notice the crack. Hugging the rock wall, he went inside. After just a meter or two, it was a dead end. The password door the dwarf mentioned was nowhere in sight. Everything around seemed naturally formed. How could there be a door? After fumbling around for a while, he finally noticed that some protruding parts of the stone wall could be pressed. Counting to the 6th protrusion, he pressed it 3 times. The stone wall in front of him slowly opened a small gap without making a sound. The craftsmanship was exquisite. Lin Tian became more convinced of the dwarves' skills and hurriedly went inside. Following the narrow path, he soon found himself in a vast, open area. This wasn't an underground palace, it was a paradise. White clouds, blue skies, green grass, and flowing water. From his elevated position, he could overlook the entire underground palace, which spanned about 20 to 30 kilometers, with a city in the center surrounded by pristine natural scenery. Lin Tian followed the path towards the dwarf kingdom. There were no guards, and the city gates were wide open. The streets were filled with dwarves in various outfits, strolling and enjoying life. They looked like small versions of humans, not pure-blooded dwarves. They were likely hybrids of dwarves and humans, which was why the flame dragon mother described them this way. But as long as he could master the forging techniques for magical tools, the lineage didn't matter. These hybrids suited Lin Tian's tastes even more. Not to mention the men. The key was that the dwarf women were, simply put, heavenly. Little. Lawless. My god, so many little lawless. As Lin Tian entered the main city, his eyes couldn't take it all in. Ponytail lawless, twin tail lawless, bunny girl lawless, uniformed lawless, maid lawless, mature lawless. Chapter 85. The Kingdom's True First Man. T.L. Sungman. Everywhere he looked, there were lawless. Lin Tian's face twisted into a smile. The air was filled with the scent of lawless. This place is heaven. Just as he was immersed in paradise, a voice filled with disdain and contempt rang out from behind him. Heaven, heaven, my ass. Where's the purple sunflower I asked you to get? Lin Tian turned around to see a well-dressed loli standing behind him. She was quite cute. However, that scowl on her face made it impossible for Lin Tian to like her. It was as if he owed her $1,000,000. He rolled his eyes at her and moved aside, muttering, crazy. The loli immediately exploded, swearing, you dare curse at me. Dennis, have I been too lenient with you lately, making you think you're something special? Upon hearing this, Lin Tian finally realized. This dwarf girl must be the little May, mentioned by the bootlicking dwarf earlier. Dare to put on airs in front of me, a Sigma male. Watch how I deal with you, Lin Tian thought to himself. He then looked at her disdainfully. Oi, you think I'll go pick flowers just because you told me to? You're nothing but a piece of shit. Are you crazy? Little May was stunned, looking at him as if she had seen a ghost. She never expected her bootlicker to suddenly act like this. Immediately, she grew angry. Fine, fine, fine. You'll never get my forgiveness for the rest of your life, understand? I hate you. That's a promise. Everyone's happy. Lin Tian turned and left. With so many lawless on the streets, who would care about this one? As he walked away decisively, little May was left completely dumbfounded. Damn guy, I'll make you regret this. On the street, Lin Tian wandered aimlessly. Even with so many lawless around, he couldn't just force himself on them. After all, his current identity was a dwarf, not a goblin. If he got expelled, he wouldn't be able to learn the craft of making magic tools. But in this dwarf kingdom, Lin Tian knew nothing. The best solution was to find someone to get acquainted with and understand the current situation of the dwarf tribe. I definitely won't chat up a guy. Let's start with the lawless. With that, he entered a tavern. Even a branch of the dwarves couldn't resist their love for drinking. The streets were full of taverns. Burp. That was satisfying. As soon as he entered, a drunken male dwarf sat at a nearby table. Lin Tian looked at him with disgust and then began to focus on the female dwarves in the tavern. They were the easiest to strike up a conversation with. He quickly spotted a blonde female dwarf drinking alone. Bartender, 2 glasses of your best wine. Lin Tian placed a gold coin on the counter, speaking generously. These gold coins were what he had obtained earlier in Clinforth, perfect for use now. For almost all intelligent races, currency was traded in gold. It worked everywhere. Seeing this, the tavern owner frowned and looked at Lin Tian in surprise. Are you really a dwarf? Who drinks just 1 glass of wine? Not for sale, buy a bottle or nothing. Only then did Lin Tian realize, so he grabbed 2 bottles of the best wine and walked over to the female dwarf. Care to share a drink? The female dwarf looked surprised, then gave him a playful smile. I'd be happy to, but your pickup skills are terrible. Lin Tian's mouth twitched slightly, and he forced a smile. You caught me, haha. Indeed, his pickup skills were poor. Outside, he would have just taken action. Who dared to mock him? Lin Tian suppressed his irritation and began chatting with a smile. Watching the female dwarf gulp down the wine, things were going according to plan. To be safe, he bought her another bottle. Your pickup skills may be terrible, but you're quite rich. I like that. You should drink too. Don't tell me a dwarf can't drink. The female dwarf asked suspiciously. Lin Tian quickly took 2 swigs, nearly revealing himself. But not drinking would have been better. Just 2 swigs in, and he was already wobbling, his ears and eyes not working right. He couldn't see or hear anything clearly. He lifted the bottle to check. 82% alcohol. Was this really wine? No wonder they were dwarves. They could brew such strong alcohol and be fine after 2 bottles. Ellipsis. When Lin Tian opened his eyes again, he was in a room at an inn. Beside him, the blonde dwarf from before was still sleeping soundly, hugging him tightly. Lin Tian quickly lifted the blanket and saw that he'd been done. Trying to steal a chicken only to lose the bait. You're awake. Last night was amazing, Tilda. At that moment, the female dwarf slowly opened her eyes, reminiscing with a satisfied look. Lin Tian held his head, still feeling some pain. He didn't expect to have slept for so long. The female dwarf was about to lift the blanket and climb back in. Even though your pickup skills are bad and your drinking capacity is even worse, I didn't expect you to be such a man. In the entire dwarf kingdom, there's no one else as manly as you. Come, let's continue. Lin Tian jumped out of bed. Be manly. He couldn't help but grin. Did that mean all male dwarves were little wimps? Finally, his goblin strength had found a use. Sorry, I have something urgent to do. I have to go. Lin Tian quickly got dressed and dashed out the door. He had already gathered information from her last night, so he had no time to continue playing with her. The blonde female dwarf chased after him reluctantly. Wait. What's your name? Where do you live? Don't go, my destined man. Unfortunately, Lin Tian didn't bother to look back. From her, he had learned an important piece of information. In this vast underground world, there were other monsters. The biggest problem troubling the dwarves was the constant harassment by ghouls, which posed a significant threat. If he could eliminate those ghouls, he might gain some status and even be granted an audience with the king. Learning the crafting techniques would be a matter of a few words. Let's do this. Lin Tian found a guild, intending to join and gather some teammates to hunt the ghouls. He needed witnesses to believe he had killed the ghouls. Otherwise, no one would believe him. Upon entering an adventurer's guild, he was almost dumbfounded. It was vastly different from the guilds in the human world, which were always bustling. Here, there wasn't a soul in sight. It seemed the dwarves had grown complacent. On the second floor of the guild, 2 dwarves were quietly observing Lin Tian. One dwarf speculated, looks like he's here to join the guild. Shouldn't we go greet him? The guild master yawned, forget it. A guy like him joining won't help. It's just another mouth to feed. Anyone here? I'm here to join the guild and form a team to hunt ghouls. Lin Tian asked tentatively. Hearing this, the eyes of the 2 dwarves upstairs lit up. The middle-aged dwarf wearing bronze armor and holding a hammer hurried downstairs. He looked as if he was being chased by a ghost. Young man with ambition. Our Carmen Guild warmly welcomes you. The middle-aged dwarf said excitedly, extending his hand. I'm Brooks, and I have a warrior medal. The warrior medal indicated that he was a former member of the Dwarf Kingdom's army. Since hiding here, they hadn't experienced any wars, and the kingdom had disbanded the army. Many former soldiers were struggling to survive. Becoming adventurers, they found no work and had to shamelessly eat the guild master's food every day. Hearing Lin Tian's intention to hunt ghouls and do something worthwhile made him so excited. The guild master, Carmen, was also surprised. There's actually a young person doing something so ambitious. Seeing their enthusiasm, Lin Tian found it easier to proceed. Hello, I'm Dennis. Are there any requirements to join the guild? No, as long as you're a dwarf. Brooks warmly arranged everything, serving tea and water. After a simple registration, Lin Tian officially became a member of the Carmen Guild. The guild had only Brooks besides the guild master. Carmen then approached. The guild is quite deserted, but it's the kingdom's only guild. Do you have any skills to show off? Ghouls were tier 5 monsters, and the strongest could be tier 6. Hunting them wasn't something that could be taken lightly. How should I show them? Lin Tian asked, checking their attributes. Both were around 1,000, very weak. Brooks placed his hammer on the ground. This welded iron hammer weighs over 500 pounds. If you can lift it, you don't even have to pick it up. Before he could finish, Lin Tian picked up the hammer and played with it. This hammer is nice, is it a magic tool? Lin Tian asked, surprised as he checked the hammer's abilities. Welded iron hammer. Allows the user to cover their entire body in a layer of steel protection. Brooks stood there, stunned. You brat. Even Carmen couldn't believe it, he's holding the welded iron hammer like a toy. How did I not know there was someone like you in the kingdom? Lin Tian could hardly hold back his laughter at these two small fries. Ahem, maybe I'm just low-key. Let's go directly to wipe out the ghouls. Lin Tian said eagerly. The sooner he made a name for himself, the sooner he could ask the king for a reward. Brooks, however, looked solemn. Wait, ghouls are exceptionally strong and numerous. We need a plan. Since dwarves had to die eventually, the burial areas gradually produced ghouls. They liked to feed on corpses, most of them transformed from dead bodies, moving quickly and carrying corpse poison. The dwarf kingdom had spent money hiring many former soldiers to hunt them. They all came back injured. Years of peace had made them forget how to craft magic tools, and their combat skills had faded. Do you think I need a plan? Lin Tian didn't bother to argue with them. He had his guild identity now. He didn't necessarily need a team. Seeing his firmness, the two quickly followed him. Afraid of being left behind. Led by Brooks, they soon arrived at a forest outside the kingdom. The surrounding clearings were filled with densely packed tombstones, all of which had been emptied. Chapter 87. Lin Tian. How did I become a queen? TL. Sungman. Anne. The chapter number is wrong, everyone. This is chapter 86, but we'll continue on like this. Why haven't we seen a single one today? Brooks was puzzled, looking around. It was unusually quiet. Carmen joked while flattering. Ghouls are timid creatures. Could it be that they sensed our Dennis and hid out of fear? Haha, that must be it. Let's go into the forest and find them. Brooks laughed. Little did they know that this joke was actually true. Ghouls only fed on corpses, which was enough to prove their cowardice. They had sensed the demonic aura from Lin Tian from afar. And it was a particularly strong one. In terms of strength, Lin Tian had already reached 4,000 during the bloody battle in Bright Town a long time ago. Recently, he had also dealt with the top-tier Flame Dragon Mother. His combat power had now reached 5,000. As Lin Tian and his companions entered the forest, the ghouls fled frantically in the darkness, not daring to approach. As they got closer, they drove all the ghouls to the edge of the underground palace. Get down. They're over there, so many of them. Suddenly, Brooks said urgently, lying on the ground, not daring to breathe loudly. Lin Tian finally saw the true appearance of the ghouls. They were dwarves turned into corpses, already somewhat withered and rotten, with sharp fangs and claws, crawling quickly on the ground like dogs. They emitted a creepy low moan. They seemed agitated and uneasy. What should we do? There are at least dozens of them. Carmen's hands were trembling. If they were discovered, they would surely die. But in the next second, Lin Tian walked straight towards the group of ghouls. No, Dennis! Brooks shouted, but it was too late. The ghouls all turned to look at Lin Tian, their ferocious, blood-red eyes seemingly ready to pounce. But that was not the reality. With each step Lin Tian took, the ghouls retreated in fear, driven to the stone walls of the underground palace, even trying to dig holes to escape. One person had frightened dozens of ghouls into submission. This incredible scene left Brooks and Carmen utterly shocked. Who is he? This isn't right. Lin Tian took out a dust-covered iron sword he had picked up from the guild. It was already considered an exceptionally fine sword outside, capable of fetching a high price. With a swing of his sword, all the ghouls were cut into pieces. None of them resisted. They even trembled with fear. The two behind him watched in astonishment, their faces full of shock. The ghouls that even hundreds of retired dwarf warriors couldn't defeat were slaughtered like chickens waiting to be killed. It felt as if they were slaughtering their own livestock. The absolute obedience and fear that livestock had for their owners were vividly reflected in the ghouls. They didn't dare to resist at all. Done. Let's go. Lin Tian picked up the head of the large ghoul and said, knowing that with this trophy, they would surely get recognition. He turned to find that the eyes of the two were filled with shock and a trace of fear. Brooks quickly forced a smile. Young man, you're really amazing. Let's go. After speaking, he couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat from his forehead. Back in the kingdom, they went straight to the palace to seek an audience with the king. At the gate, they were stopped by the guards. The king is unwell and cannot see you at the moment. Hey, look carefully, we solved the ghoul problem. Brooks cursed. The guard's eyes were filled with admiration and astonishment for Lin Tian, but, there's nothing I can do. Let them in. In the dwarf sanctuary, a mature woman's voice rang out. Pushing the door open, they saw a little girl in ceremonial robes sitting inside. She looked like a little girl but exuded the unique aura and mature charm of a ruler. Combined with her captivating uniform, it really added to her allure. Anyone who saw her would be excited. However, Lin Tian did not expect her to be the dwarf king. Brooks said, "Your Majesty the Queen, we are here to claim our reward. This young man, Dennis, has exterminated all the ghouls that threatened the kingdom." What? The Queen was a bit stunned but quickly regained her composure. Her beautiful eyes, full of charm, were fixed on Lin Tian, almost entranced. She then said perfunctorily, "The rewards from your guild will be sent later. Dennis, you stay. The others can leave. Thank you, Your Majesty." Carmen and Brooks were overjoyed and quickly left. The entire hall was left with just the Queen and Lin Tian. Lin Tian held the large ghoul's head. "Your Majesty, I don't need gold or anything for my reward. I want to learn forging techniques." "Shish, I need to think carefully about your reward. In this dwarf kingdom, there hasn't been a young man as brave as you in decades." The Queen gracefully walked to Lin Tian's side. She playfully stretched out her small hand, cupping Lin Tian's chin as she admired him. With a satisfied smile, she said, "I don't care about the ghouls. If you want to learn forging techniques, you'll have to offer something else. Your Majesty, if I didn't kill these ghouls, your entire kingdom will be destroyed in a few months." Lin Tian's face darkened, growing displeased. After all that effort, and now they were reneging. If worst came to worst, he could just take what he wanted by force. He could even take a bunch of lawless back and have fun with them. Seeing his agitation, the Queen quickly soothed him. "That's not what I meant. It's just that you slept with my sister the night before last, you know. This punishment cancels out your merits. If you want forging techniques, you'll have to offer something else." Her sister. Lin Tian couldn't help but think of the blonde loli he met at the tavern. He retorted, with a clear conscience, "Your Majesty, please don't accuse me falsely. When I was drunk, it was clearly your sister who took advantage of me." "A clear conscience? I don't know where a conscience is. Why don't you help me find it?" The Queen tilted her head, her hazy eyes seemingly emitting electric currents as they connected with Lin Tian. This behavior left Lin Tian completely baffled. "Are you serious?" Though he was never short of romantic encounters, after all, there were plenty of females in the tribe, he never expected to have such luck now. Hadn't they just met? Moreover, she held a high position, having lived a pampered life for so long. Why would she start flirting with him right away? "Whether I'm serious or not, why don't you feel my conscience and see?" Seeing Lin Tian's hesitation, the Queen directly grabbed his hand, placing it over her conscience. A tingling sensation, like an electric shock, spread through Lin Tian's entire body. It was indeed her conscience, and it felt incredibly genuine. This F-cup loli was truly one in a million. However, to be safe, Lin Tian bluntly asked, "Your Majesty, you're not trying to set me up, are you? If you don't explain clearly, I won't dare to act rashly." "Would you dare to act rashly if I explained clearly? So bold, not respecting me as the Queen." The Queen deliberately provoked him. Suddenly covering her face with a smile, she began to explain, "My sister said you're the most manly dwarf in the kingdom's history, unmatched by anyone. I've been alone for nearly 10 years and really want to see if what she said is true." Upon hearing this, Lin Tian finally understood. Dwarves were notoriously small in certain areas, so it made sense. But he asked, "Alone? Aren't you the Queen?" "HMPH, the king is old, with most of his teeth gone, barely hanging on. He wasn't that old, but he was promiscuous in his youth." The Queen spoke with a forlorn expression, looking at her fingers. "If it weren't for him being with me, I wouldn't know how to survive." This. Before Lin Tian could say anything more, the Queen pulled him into her embrace and kissed him. Feeling her fragrant tongue, Lin Tian couldn't restrain himself. He settled the matter right then and there. Ding. Health increased by 240, attack increased by 100, defense increased by 100. After a long while, seeing the Queen on the ground, her clothes in disarray and unable to get up, Lin Tian asked, "Can you teach me forging techniques now?" The Queen's mind was still floating, unable to speak for the moment. She had gone too high. "Your Majesty, the King, he can't hold on any longer." At this moment, the door was pushed open, and a dwarf guard rushed in anxiously. Seeing the weakened, disheveled queen on the ground, he was dumbfounded. His mouth opened wide. What happened here? Upon hearing this, the queen struggled to stand, tidying her clothes. Nothing. He resolved the ghoul problem for the kingdom. I had to reward him. Reward. The guard caught a glimpse of the queen's body curves, and his nose started bleeding uncontrollably. Shaking his head, he remembered the urgent matter. The king can't hold on any longer. Please come quickly. Really. Today is truly a double blessing. After tidying up, the queen prepared to leave. Lin Tian, still in a daze, said, I'll head back to the guild first. I'll come find you later. However, the queen grabbed his hand, her eyes seductive as she said, You're coming with me. From now on, the palace is your home. I am the king, and you are the queen, understood? What the? Lin Tian was stunned. How had he become the queen? Was this happiness or bliss? It seemed to be both. This way, he could rightfully learn the top-tier forging techniques of the dwarf kingdom. It was definitely a huge gain. Initially, he thought this place was heaven, and now he was sure, it was heaven indeed. When they reached the king's palace, he had already passed. Lin Tian couldn't help but gasp, hiss. This. The figure on the bed wasn't just a recently deceased person, it was a mummified corpse. With blackened eyes and withered hands. Even his lips were white. Don't look at me like that. When he forcibly married me 10 years ago, he was already impotent. Otherwise, why would I approach you directly in the sanctuary? The queen said, unable to hide her joy on her face. Today was indeed a double blessing for her. And for Lin Tian as well. I need to handle the coronation ceremony in the next 2 days. Feel free to explore the palace, but stay with me at night. Queen Adele said with a wicked smile. Lin Tian nodded. Yes, your majesty. Suddenly, Adele gently placed her jade-like hand over Lin Tian's lips. Still calling me your majesty. Call me dear Tilda. Lin Tian felt a bit awkward, but calling her dear was definitely worth it. The dwarf kingdom's magical tools would all be his. Chapter 88. Opening the magic tool vault. 3 magic tools. TL. Sungman. Over the past few days, Lin Tian had been persistently coaxing, day and night, tirelessly working. He finally managed to get the key to the kingdom's magic tool vault from Adele. Though the dwarves hadn't crafted any new magic tools for decades, there should still be some stock left. At the very back of the grand palace, a golden door came into view. A hammer was carved in the center of the golden door. This was the magic tool vault. Upon reaching the door, Lin Tian inserted the key and, as Adele had instructed, turned it 2.5 times to the left, and then another 2.5 times. Then he sang a dwarven folk rap and performed an ancient dance. A golden eye on the door opened, scanned Lin Tian's secret command, and finally opened slowly. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Tian's heart raced with excitement. Magic tools, extremely rare items. Once he obtained them, his strength could change dramatically. However, the scene before him was completely different from what he had imagined. There was no blinding golden light. The inside was empty, covered in cobwebs and dust. Rows of massive tool racks held nothing. Lin Tian cursed in frustration, feeling happy for nothing. It seemed that this damned lazy kingdom had done nothing for years, living off their past achievements, selling off all the magic tools. No wonder they lived such comfortable lives. But at the very end, Lin Tian still found 3 magic tools. Life armor. A living armor that feeds on the host's blood, possessing strong defense and a protective instinct. It can autonomously detect and defend against enemy attacks. Ominous blade. Crafted from the spine of a magic dragon. The deeper the user's obsession, the more powerful and terrifying the strength it can unleash. Eye of the Darkspawn. Created from an unknown creature's remains by dwarves with their miraculous forging skills. It can see through all things, but be cautious of being controlled by it. Lin Tian gently caressed these 3 magic tools. They all responded. They didn't seem to be dead objects but rather 3 living beings. Is this the power of the dwarves? It feels more like creating life than forging weapons. Lin Tian couldn't help but marvel at such magic tools. The Fatu magic ring on his hand couldn't compare at all, as it was merely crafted by the ghoul tribe. He immediately put on the life armor. It looked like a black, shapeless mass. No matter how much he fiddled with it, he couldn't figure out how to wear it. Suddenly, Lin Tian thought of something. If it feeds on the host's blood. He cut his finger and dripped a drop of blood on it. Sure enough, the black mass began to turn into fluid, crawling up his body from the bleeding finger. It covered his entire arm, then his whole body. Lin Tian's vision was obscured. he couldn't see anything, feeling tightly wrapped all over. A suffocating sensation, like being entwined by a python, overwhelmed him. When the armor adapted to Lin Tian's body, it slowly shrank into a black crystal-like pendant hanging around his neck. Lin Tian felt as though he had established a connection with it. With a thought, the pendant would instantly unfold. His entire body would be covered in a layer of crystal-like black armor, and the armor's style could change freely. Full armor, light armor, a flashy, over-the-top edgy armor, anything was possible. Not bad. Lin Tian was fairly satisfied, though he wasn't sure how high the defense level was. Since it was a living being, wearing it didn't increase the attribute panel's strength. He then picked up the ominous blade beside him. It was also completely black, exuding a chilling aura of death, somewhat similar to a katana. A streak of crimson seemed to flow in the center of the blade. It felt like the heart of the weapon. The moment he picked it up, Lin Tian felt an overwhelming sense of oppression and couldn't control the blade. Forget it, I'll save it for Alice. Lin Tian thought. He didn't like using melee weapons. Even if his attribute panel was strong, his swordsmanship and combat skills were weak. This was an undeniable fact. He couldn't compare to Alicenia and the others. As for the last item, the Eye of the Darkspawn, it was set in a golden triangle and had been staring at Lin Tian from the beginning. Its scarlet pupil, the entire eyeball filled with bloodshot lines. Extremely eerie. From its gaze, it seemed to be speaking constantly, but definitely not saying anything good. Lin Tian got goosebumps. Though the other two were living beings, they weren't this creepy. Even if it was a world-class magic tool, he didn't really want it. Of course, if he didn't want it, he could give it to others in the tribe later. He packed it up. Unfortunately, there were only these 3 items in the entire magic tool vault. Lin Tian thought, forget it, I'll have to make these lazy people restart the Apollo Forge and forge more magic tools for me. These guys weren't dwarves at all, they were lazybones. The Apollo Forge for forging magic tools had been collecting dust in the city for decades. Lin Tian planned to have Adele revise the policies. They had to forge at least 20 magic tools daily. Lin Tian would stay here for at most 2 months, and taking back 1,000 magic tools would actually be considered few. The next day. My dear, I've finally found you. Today is my coronation ceremony. Come with me, my beloved Queen Tilda. Adele's makeup was elaborate today. She wore a crown, white silk gloves, a brand new ceremonial robe, and a stunning hairstyle. Every smile and gesture mesmerized the male guards, making them unable to look away. Seeing their lustful gazes, Adele sneered, "Don't you know your size and weight? Stop staring. If I tell you the truth, you'd just feel inferior." She then tightly held Lin Tian's hand, and the two of them sat in a purely mechanical steam carriage, beginning a city-wide parade. After they left, the soldiers' faces were full of surprise and jealousy. They whispered, "Damn, is it true? The guy who's been causing such a stir in the city recently. No wonder the queen, no, the empress, is so infatuated. I can't imagine that kind of size. Why the hell is he so much more impressive than me? We're both dwarves. I wish I could cut it off him and attach it to myself. I wouldn't even need to work. All the beauties would come to me." From a distance, Adele probably couldn't hear them. But Lin Tian, with his keen hearing skills, could, and he couldn't help but puff out his chest. The racial advantage was really something. However, the current situation was a bit awkward. A coronation should be just that. Why a city-wide parade? Wasn't that only for criminals? After leaving the palace gates, the streets were lined with dwarves, and the windows of the houses were packed with them. They all held flowers, congratulating the new king on his ascension. Because for 3 days, all alcohol consumption in the city would be on the royal family's tab, of course, they were happy. Oh my, 10 years ago, I thought the queen was a budding beauty, but today, she looks like a fully bloomed flower. Tisk, 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 she's more beautiful than fine wine. Long live the queen. I'd rather drink your nectar than wine for a lifetime. Countless male dwarves shouted, unabashedly expressing their love for Adele. Meanwhile, the female dwarves all fixed their gazes on Lin Tian. Their eyes turned into heart shapes, as what the queen's sister said true. Is that handsome guy really the most manly man in the city? He broke the record in dwarf history. I wish I could shape myself into his form. I'm fed up with my useless man at home. Lord Dennis, please have mercy on me. Oh no, I really want to shape myself into his form. The female dwarves acted like crazed fans, not caring about anyone else, even their families. Ever since Lin Tian and Adele's sister separated, she had been searching everywhere, spreading the word about Lin Tian's size due to his lack of distinctive features. This news caused an uproar. The information was explosive. It was a record in dwarf history, something unimaginable. Everyone would care a bit. When the men looked at Lin Tian, their faces were dark, expressing their jealousy vividly. Suddenly, a female dwarf ignored the obstacles and ran into the street, stopping the queen's industrial carriage. Dennis, you two-timer, didn't you say you only loved me? How dare you lie to me? The intruder was little May. She stood there, looking righteous. Adele frowned slightly. My dear, who is she? Lin Tian gave a wicked smile, ready to have some fun. Her. Just a bootlicker. Not worthy of being compared to you, my dear. Adele naturally believed him. After all, what female dwarf wouldn't love Lin Tian? From those just understanding love to those who hadn't reached menopause. They would all be madly in love with Lin Tian. Mainly because Adele and her sister had experienced the Goblin's God's blessing ability. That's why. A bootlicker. I wonder who's the real bootlicker. Do you remember how you used to be? You didn't dare speak against me. If you want my forgiveness, get over here quickly. Little May acted arrogant, thinking she could still control the situation. The entire city fell silent. Lin Tian didn't say a word, looking at her like she was an idiot. The awkward atmosphere spread. Little May felt so humiliated that she almost cried. Why is it like this? You were chasing me before. Why didn't you tell me how amazing you were earlier? Defeating the ghouls was the highest honor in the dwarf kingdom in decades. And suddenly, inexplicably being called the manliest man in dwarf history. How could she not be moved? Her family had scolded her for not seizing the opportunity, letting such a good catch slip away. Where did this girl come from? Is her brain damaged? Hey, doesn't she know her worth? Even I couldn't get him, and she thinks he would chase her. Has her skin gotten that thick? What a disgrace. The female dwarves around started to attack her. They felt insulted by Little May's actions. However, Lin Tian then spoke. Little May, it's not impossible for me to forgive you. Kneel down, roll your eyes, make an ahegao face, and loudly say to everyone, Master Dennis, please shape me into your form. Hiss. In an instant, the whole city was in an uproar. Everyone showed expectant expressions, their faces full of mischievous smiles. Chapter 89. Lin Tian. In danger. TL. Sungman. What? You want me to do this? Are you crazy? I am. Little May wanted to curse, but seeing the now wealthy and glamorous Lin Tian, she hesitated. And he even had records of dwarf history. If she could really be forgiven and let him pursue her again, it wasn't impossible. Finally, driven by vanity and desire, Little May slowly knelt down, exposing herself to that feeling, her expression exaggerated. She stuck out her pink little tongue, drooling. Her eyes looked as if they were about to fly to the heavens. Please, Master Dennis, forgive me. Please let me become your object. This humiliating scene was witnessed by the entire city. Laughter and obscene remarks continuously erupted. But for Little May, it was nothing. As long as she could get the old Dennis back, she would be the one laughing at everyone else. She would stand up again. However, Lin Tian merely smiled with satisfaction. Guards, throw this street-strutting slut aside, she's disgusting to look at. Darling, you're so bad Tilda. Adele said with a charming smile. The moment her fantasy was shattered, Little May felt like she was splitting apart. Dennis. You tricked me. I did everything you asked. Why won't you forgive me? I'm even allowing you to pursue me, to sleep with me. Don't you want that? With you, a whore who would do such things in public? Do you think you deserve to climb up to my level? Lin Tian retorted, and he and Adele drove away in their mechanical carriage, leaving Little May alone in her collapse. How had the once submissive Dennis turned into this? Regret couldn't even describe her feelings now. Dennis's friends, however, felt truly relieved. Finally, they saw Dennis stand up for himself. The parade quickly ended, and the city began endless drinking and revelry. Lin Tian and Adele returned to the palace for the banquet. This is Duchess Jamila. Her skillful hands have crafted world-class magic tools. And these are Lisa, Linda, and Winnie, all important members of the royal family. At the grand and luxurious banquet, what could compare with the exotic delicacies? Naturally, it was the noblewomen and their beautiful daughters. Because Adele was a woman, the dwarf kingdom's social status naturally leaned towards females. Most of the attendees were wives and daughters of officials and nobles, representing their families. Lin Tian greeted them politely. Hello, I am Dennis. It's an honor to witness the stunning beauty of so many ladies. Your Majesty Adele, you certainly know how to pick a man. The last one gave you the throne, and this one's sweet talking. Is what I've heard real? The elegantly dressed, petite, and charming Duchess Jamila raised her eyebrows as she spoke. That smile couldn't be suppressed even by the most serious of expressions. The others also gathered, full of curiosity. Dwarves were straightforward by nature, not hiding their emotions or social niceties. Adele directly said, "Of course, after 10 years of frustration, the gods finally pitied me. I even suspect he's an incarnation of Zeus. This country worshipped the 12 Olympian gods. Among them, the king of gods was Zeus. Known for his lust, often disguising himself as a mortal to seduce virtuous women. Fathering many demigods. There was a saying that Olympus mythology was a history of debauchery. No wonder, Your Majesty, you look so radiant after just a few days." Someone joked. The flattery almost made Adele float with delight. Lin Tian, on the other hand, tasted the dwarven food. It was quite good, with a balanced mix of fruits, vegetables, and meat. Once Adele finished showing off, and had kindled the interest of the noblewomen, it was time for him to take action. He could restart the Apollo Forge across the city, having it produce magic tools for him daily. Since Adele was newly in power and still weak, suddenly restarting something that had been dormant for decades would face much opposition. His Highness Dennis, I truly regret not meeting you sooner. Duchess Jamila approached him. Her eyes were practically sparkling. She looked Lin Tian up and down, swallowing occasionally. Not just her, but other noblewomen and young ladies too. Lin Tian even felt a hint of fear. It felt like they were going to devour him, their greed evident. Throughout the banquet, Lin Tian was like an innocent young man, teased and flirted with. Adele didn't mind. After all, she was the queen. Who would dare to steal her man? Ellipsis. However, night fell. Adele was still busy handling some trivial matters from her recent appointment. Lin Tian stayed alone in the empty room. With a creak, the door was pushed open. Someone sneaked in. Upon closer look, it was none other than Duchess Jamila from the daytime. Shish, His Highness Dennis, don't shout. If you dare to shout, I'll accuse you of molesting me. Jamila threatened directly after closing the door. Lin Tian did not resist, he went along with it. Although Jamila was a duchess, she was now the true power holder. She held immense influence. Moreover, she possessed the rare dwarf talent to forge world-class magic tools. He had to seize this opportunity. Suddenly, footsteps sounded outside. Jamila, frightened, quickly hid under Lin Tian's covers. However, it wasn't Adele who came in, but Winnie and Linda. These two sisters were daughters of another duke, their faces still a bit immature, but their minds were filled with impure thoughts. The queen isn't here. We said we had something to discuss with her. Yes, what a pity. In that case, we can only discuss it with His Highness Dennis alone. Winnie and Linda exchanged glances. Their smiles couldn't be suppressed by anything. Inside the covers, Jamila snorted, thinking, you two pretentious girls, if I hadn't arranged for Adele to be sent away, would you even dare to come here? At that moment, more stealthy footsteps sounded outside. Winnie and Linda, frightened, quickly turned off the lights and also hid under Lin Tian's covers. Ah, Sister Jamila. Winnie and Linda were dumbfounded. There was already someone hidden in the covers. Jamila quickly gestured for silence. The awkwardness was unbearable. Outside, a voice called, Sister. Are you in there? Hey Tilda, my good sister. I'm sick, come out Tilda. The person was Adele's sister, the blonde dwarf Lin Tian had met at the tavern earlier. Hee, sister, don't blame me. Who told you to be so selfish and keep Dennis to yourself? The blonde dwarf chuckled mischievously as she came in. She was met with Jamila and the others, all with dark expressions, emerging from the covers. The complex and chaotic scene. Everyone felt an embarrassment worse than death. They covered their faces and ran out. Lin Tian lay in bed, knowing the time had come. At midnight, Adele finally returned. Despite being tired from the day, she was energetic. Darling, you couldn't wait, right? I'm here. In the midst of their activity, Lin Tian spoke directly. Darling, I believe our kingdom is growing weaker. I suggest we restart the Apollo Forge to mass-produce magic tools and strengthen the kingdom. That's true, but the other nobles definitely won't agree, and the citizens won't support it either. Adele enjoyed herself, thinking aloud. Forging magic tools wasn't as simple as forging iron. It required mining special ores deep within the dungeons and collecting various precious materials for enchantment. Combined with the dwarves, God's blessing and advanced forging techniques, it could succeed. Mass production would require the nation's efforts. Lin Tian responded, I can handle the nobles. You just need to be firm with the citizens. But, I feel, Adele began to say. Suddenly, Lin Tian exerted a force, causing her to cry out in pain. Don't do this, I was wrong, I agree, okay. Then it's settled, Lin Tian said with an evil smile. The next day, Adele ordered from the kingdom's plaza. Everyone, the ghoul incident served as a wake-up call. If not for Dennis, it could have escalated to unimaginable consequences. Therefore, I have decided to restart the Apollo Forge to mass-produce magic tools and establish a magic tool army. When the time comes, even if external enemies invade, we can defend our homeland. However, the gathered dwarves strongly opposed. I'm not interested. I'm going back to drink. Just got appointed and wants us to work. I don't recognize this queen. Who cares? It's none of my business. What if my hands get dirty? The dwarves began to leave one after another. They were known for their stubbornness. Otherwise, Lin Tian would have used force to make them work, without much effort. They were the kind who would rather die than be subdued. Why did the dwarves almost go extinct? They wouldn't forge magic tools for others even if enslaved. Otherwise, magic tools wouldn't be rare items on the continent. And here, royal authority didn't hold much sway. At this moment, Lin Tian stepped forward and said, Everyone, trust my decision. We must restart the Apollo Forge and prepare for danger in times of peace. We are the last bloodline of the dwarves, we cannot vanish. We must let the hammer and the forge fire continue. Simple words, seen as nonsense by the male dwarves. They had no persuasive power. But the female dwarves were moved. That's right. I support His Highness Dennis. Men are like useless trash, they should pick up the hammer again. Exactly. Learn from His Highness Dennis. Under the fierce attitude of the tigress-like women, the men didn't dare to speak up. Finally, Adele looked at the group of nobles. The noblewomen avoided eye contact. Under Jamila's lead, the other nobles followed suit, with no objections. Lin Tian was satisfied. In the future, I'll join you in mining and forging. As long as we produce 20 magic tools each day, all the drinks will be free that day. And I'll drink with you. Oh my, did I hear right? His Highness Dennis will join us in the dark, deserted mines. That's too dangerous. Drinking with us, what if he gets drunk? Too dangerous. What if we meet him in the mines? Too dangerous. Chapter 90. Almost died. TL. Sungman. Ga, why do I feel like I've put myself in a trap? Lin Tian gasped. Looking at those fierce, wolf-like eyes, he felt an inexplicable fear. But overall, the matter of the magic tools was finally about to be resolved. Unexpectedly, it was quite easy. No need for soldiers, no need for blades. And he could get them for free. When the time came, with 1,000 pieces of magic equipment, he could build an army strong enough to fight against thousands, including the Great Tomb and the Church. Surviving was easy, but becoming strong enough to establish a foothold in the world was difficult. He decided to get started immediately. The dwarves gathered around the Apollo Forge. The entire furnace was huge, hundreds of meters in size, resembling a box. It integrated forging, hammering, quenching, and enchanting into one. It was left by ancient dwarves. Many world-class, half-moon class, and even sun-class magic tools were made on this forging platform. One by one, the dwarves pulled the iron chains, chanting slogans, and brought up the giant furnace buried in the pit. Boom. The reappearance of the Apollo Forge was not only shocking to Lin Tian, but also ignited the blood of the dwarves. In their genes, hammers and furnace fires called to them. The work was clearly divided. Some mined, some tended the furnace, and some collected enchanting materials. Then, the finest blacksmiths in the city personally forged the magic tools. Whether defensive, offensive, or special, the processes were crystal clear in their minds. They hadn't forgotten a thing. Although the level of each forged item was uncertain, anything produced by dwarves was guaranteed to be top-notch. Even the worst would be 10th tier. 12th tier would be world class. Half-moon class, full moon class, sun class, it all depended on luck. In history, only one dwarf could consistently forge magic tools of this level, but he died young. Lin Tian also strapped on a basket, took a pickaxe, and wore a headlamp-like device. There was a glowing stone on his forehead. Then he followed the main group into the mining area of the underground palace. It wasn't just to motivate everyone. Lin Tian also wanted to learn the dwarven forging techniques, so he joined in. The dwarves were moved to tears. Adele was even more gratified to have found such a good man. In every aspect, he was excellent. Among the dwarves, there was no concept of unfair treatment between men and women. Mining was a job for both sexes. Whoever needed to go, went. All the way, Lin Tian was surrounded by female dwarves. Their eyes were dreamy, and their mouths curved up, unable to take their eyes off Lin Tian. Their hungry looks were terrifying. If any female dwarf dared to make a move, Lin Tian estimated he wouldn't have a hair left. Your Highness Dennis, you are a king, how can you go into the mines? I'm truly touched. The more I look at you, the more I like you. What if I can't help myself in a dark, deserted place? Strong, responsible, hands-on, I found such a good man. What should I do? Stop teasing him. What if we scare him? I say we go deeper into the mine first. Lin Tian genuinely felt scared of women. Who was he? A goblin, a monster. The nemesis of all female creatures. Now, he was so frightened by a group of women that his legs were trembling. Finally, they arrived at the entrance of the dark mine. Lin Tian walked at the end, with a group of female dwarves in front, standing at the edge of the mine's shadow, urging him to keep up and not get lost. The half-hidden shadows made these little dwarves look like little demons. Come on, Your Highness Dennis, what's wrong? Keep up with us, don't get lost. Come in, are you afraid? Lin Tian finally mustered the courage to step into the dark mine. Ellipsis. A few hours later, a group of female dwarves emerged carrying baskets full of colorful ores and crystals. One of them wiped the sweat from her forehead. Oh, I haven't done this in a while, and I'm already exhausted. What do you mean you're exhausted? Clearly, it's His Highness Dennis who's tired, alright. Oh, it feels so good. Don't humans have a saying about men and women working together not getting tired? It's true. As they left happily. Behind them, Lin Tian's legs trembled, his basket containing just a small piece of ore, wobbling as he followed. He was mentally dazed. Damn, I'm never coming to the mine again. That place is really a nightmare. Nowhere to run. After returning, he rested for half a day to recover. Even a dozen people would tire out a donkey. As night fell, everyone had just started their dirty and tiring work for the day. Adele made an exception today, and the drinks for the whole city were on the royal family. Dear, I'll go around to reassure and encourage everyone so they don't complain. In the palace, Lin Tian said this while enjoying dinner with Adele. Adele was a bit worried. It's so late, what if you encounter danger? Lin Tian didn't mind. I'm not even afraid of ghouls. Who could hurt me? Then, he ran towards the city. Although he was still a bit scared of those female dwarves who were madly infatuated with him. But this was not a dark, deserted mine. In the city, he didn't believe they would dare to act recklessly. Shame should still matter, right? Entering a tavern, it was bustling inside. The dwarves were drinking, the drunk ones were singing and dancing, playing their traditional dwarf games. They were having a blast. The fatigue from the day didn't affect them at all. Lin Tian was satisfied with this. Drink well, everyone. As long as we work hard, we will live the life we want. Yes, Your Highness Dennis, I still admire you, even though I'm quite jealous. A dwarf downed a gulp of liquor and said. At least Lin Tian wasn't lazy. They were used to being lazy, but as long as they had endless liquor at night, they were fine. Normally, they didn't work much, but then they wouldn't have as much liquor to drink. Lin Tian wandered through several taverns, finally putting his mind at ease. As long as the progress of forging the magic tools wasn't delayed, it was fine. They had to finish early and return. They had to guard against the Empire, the Church, and even the Great Tomb. Suddenly, Lin Tian felt something was strange, but he couldn't pinpoint it, so he continued patrolling each tavern. When he arrived outside the last, remote tavern at the end of the street, Lin Tian prepared to leave. After all, there were few people there, and everyone was happy to keep working. There was no need to go in. But he thought he had worked hard all day and could use a drink to warm up. As he pushed the door open, he found it was very lively. It was even packed. You had to watch your step to avoid treading on others' feet. The small tavern accommodated at least 100 or 200 people. Welcome to Peggy's Tavern. Sir, would you like a strong rum, brandy, or perhaps, me? At the bar stood a female dwarf waitress, wearing an adorable maid outfit. Her beautiful eyes had locked onto Lin Tian since he entered and hadn't looked away. Not just her, everyone in the tavern seemed to be staring at Lin Tian. Damn, this is bad. Lin Tian finally realized what was wrong. In the previous taverns, it was mostly men. By rights, Dwarves, both male and female, were alcoholics. There shouldn't have been no women drinking. It turned out they were all gathered here, waiting for him to take the bait. He hurriedly turned around, only to find that the waitress had already closed the door and taken out a fist-sized iron lock, locking it tightly. Oh, it's His Highness Dennis. Are you thirsty? Have some water. A female dwarf, looking very concerned, said and led Lin Tian to the center of the crowd. She handed him a glass of water. Lin Tian quickly stopped her, took out a dwarven friction lighter and lit it. The water burst into a blue flame. Why does this water burn? Lin Tian questioned the female dwarf, his face dark. The female dwarf gave an embarrassed smile and quickly took the water away. Then, the waitress brought another drink. Sir, try our newly launched oolong tea. It's very good. Oolong tea. Lin Tian looked at the brown liquid and then drank it. After gulping it down, he realized something was wrong with this oolong tea. A strange fiery strength rushed straight to his head. The waitress immediately picked up a bottle and refilled his glass. Lin Tian snatched the bottle to check. Specialty liquor note super high 92 degrees. Ah, crap. This goblin body wasn't truly a dwarf. How could it withstand liquor over 90%? Half a pint in one glass. After drinking it, Lin Tian felt his consciousness blur. He was forcibly drunk and passed out. Ellipsis. When he woke up the next day, Lin Tian felt his body was light, as if a gust of wind could blow him away. His brain seemed to lag as if it were loading slowly. It took half a day to regain control of his numb body. Damn, what's going on? Lin Tian looked around, seeing female dwarves sprawled everywhere in the tavern. Their clothes were disheveled and incomplete. Lin Tian struggled to stand, needing to escape quickly. But after just 2 steps, he was panting. I'm so tired. What's wrong with me? Did I escape? Looking back, he saw he had barely moved 10 meters. Already exhausted, he had to rest against the wall. Damn, am I going to die in this dwarf kingdom? I thought it would be easy. Damn it. Lin Tian felt a chill of fear. Those hundreds of exhausted female dwarves. It was terrifying to imagine what he went through last night. Once he got the magic tools, he would leave this place immediately. Struggling to the palace entrance, Adele was anxiously waiting there. Seeing him, she quickly helped him back. Dear, I feel like I'm about to die. On the bed, Lin Tian coughed a few times. Adele looked at his weak state, regretting, Dear, I should have stopped you
from going out last night. It's my fault. Hold on, don't leave me. Lin Tian's head tilted, and he fainted again. He didn't die, but he was severely depleted, suffering from malnutrition and fainted from hunger. It took nearly half a month of rest. Lin Tian could finally get out of bed and move around. Since I transmigrated, I've faced many dangers and opponents, but this is the first time I've been so miserable. Almost died. No more waiting. I'll start the life simulation system right now, get the magic tools, and leave this damn place.